different stakeholders to understand this. The Germans came in, GIZ came in, science itself, the Department of Science and Innovation exposed us to this knowledge. So the traditional leaders in those who are called amakosi have a stake on this, which is actually taken by Department of Environmental Affairs and open a trust, and they share. Once the SMME start making profit, then they're gonna start sharing with the traditional leaders. And the second level is the people who are harvesters themselves, who are staying in those areas. It is illegal to go and harvest in somebody's backyard, coming from outside without involving them. So it helps us even to protect the plants that are there, because the woman who's staying close to the tree of Tipane tea is gonna protect that, because she knows that she's gonna get a share. So all the big thing is being transparent. The big issue is that we have to commit ourselves to socialization of our communities to understand what the business and the wealth is all about, and they need to fully participate. But at the end, I just want to say, this opens even more and more communities, because there was a woman who was a dressmaker who was not gonna be seen, but when I'm wearing like this, I'm attracting more people to come and buy this product. That is the power of indigenous knowledge. But at the same time, it needs to be in a class, in a classroom where we're gonna teach and educate young people to understand where we are going with indigenous knowledge.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm going to give you a chance. Let's go back with that mic, but I want you to be brief with your response, because I would like the audience here to pose some questions to you. Ntate Maben.
I think my mom has covered almost everything. Is that our philosophy as people, it's governed by Ubuntu. If you are a true leader, surely, no matter you are an inventor of that knowledge, surely you think about your people. You think about your people. The issue of job creation. You might have this knowledge when you plant it, what germinates the food, and when who must eat who must eat, you know, the outcome of your knowledge is the community must benefit. How do you define the benefits? What does the word benefit? It's not monetary, only the monetary. It's part and parcel of educating. Re-educate, re-conscientize, remind the people about where they come from. Because now when we talk about indigenous knowledge, most of our people are said those things into Zakdala. Those are old things. Now, education, by educating people, we are actually re-educating them that the knowledge that we have thrown outside the window, it can create job. It can make money for you. It can bring education for you. I think the mom has said it very mouthful. It is just, we have to actually use the philosophy of Ubuntu. If you are a leader, if you are a captain of the ship, obviously you jump last. You are not the one who jumps first because you pay demand. I thank you.
As a healer, you must have that spirit of Ubuntu. Because from where I'm sitting, people have shown me Ubuntu. The DSI has showed me Ubuntu. The CSIR has showed me Ubuntu. The IDC has showed me Ubuntu. So me also have to show Ubuntu to my communities that I'm working with. In the formulation of Arga Makume, we use 7 medicinal plants, of which 1 is found in the northwest, 3 in Mpumalanga, 3 in Venda, the place that they call Vembe, at the Limpopo River Valley. So what I've done, to show the spirit of Ubuntu is I have given the communities, these 3 communities, the right to own the propagation because the medicine are found in their land. I will only remain with the manufacturing, not the propagation. That's what we call sharing of wealth with the people, so that they mustn't see a project being developed in their area and then they are not the beneficiaries. So, no. What's going to happen with Arga Makome is the people will own it. I always say Arga Makome is not my product. It's the product of South Africa and its people. Because it seems everybody is putting a hand there. From those who are funding us to those who will in the future own it. The communities where I get the medicine. It's my knowledge, yes. Do I want to make money? Yes. How much? The little that can make me live. The other I can share with the communities. So we have signed agreements with the communities that I will be working with. The benefit sharing agreement, the regulation of BABs, stuff like that. When coming to the benefit sharing, Machaba Herbs will be buying the products from the communities. They will be getting cash. To add more on that, we will be sharing the benefits. There's a certain percentage that the communities will also get from the sale of Aregaya Makoma. And that's one that they can use to build roads, schools, halls, clinics, everything that they feel they can do there. So from my heart to the people of South Africa, I say, know that you are working with somebody who's feeling for the people, who wants to see our people develop. I cannot go up alone without and leave you there, down there. Even those who help us, maybe in the future, people will come and invest, because what I want to see South Africans investing in us, in our knowledge, because this knowledge is passed from our grandfather down, 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 so that to help each other. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. The spirit of Ubuntu that's been spoken about, in my language we say Kwehangasip. So yeah, obviously as I also work with, I would keep saying that because it's the truth, the marginalized community. Yeah, we have a model that we also work with or work on, and it is, because obviously we have already been deprived of our right of being a human because of losing many things due to assimilation. So what we have, it's ours. And what I do, like now I also represent my Kwesen communities as I'm sitting here. So we have a model of profit sharing no matter what. And by the way, even that's something that we were raised with. We don't talk about I or me. It's just about us and ours. And also quite surprising, I have an identical twin sister. So since we grew up, I have never known of a word I. And I'm now alone here, but if someone would ask me, okay, tell me about how you grew up, then I would always say, okay, even when we went to tertiary to get acceptance, we had to write a test and then go through an interview. I kept saying, and us. Then the people are like, but why you keep saying us? I said, oh, sorry, I grew up saying us because I have a twin sister whom I share the birthday with, so I've known my world as us. They said, where is she? I said, no, she's outside because she was also waiting to be interviewed. Then they said, call her in. Then she got called in, and they saw, because we are identical, they saw two people, they're like, oh, wow. And quite surprisingly, also to my advantage of knowing that Ubuntu of us, our interview went smooth because they said, you know what? You are two people here. If you did not talk about us, we would have not known that you are two. Now let's just have a conversation and let's see how we can get you the placement. And while people were there, the two of us were interviewed together. We had to even share the questions. And after that, they said, okay, go out and wait for your responses. We went out, waited there, and after like few hours of adjudication, our names appeared there because I'm Tele and she's Tella. Both our names appeared there because of that thing of Ubuntu. And also to just quickly share on that, previous year we did not qualify. You know why? They thought it's someone that applied twice to that institution. So they thought it's fraud. They said you cannot apply twice. It's only the IT numbers, it's only last 2 digits that are different. Names, same, surname, same, date of birth, same. They said there's fraud happening, so we got disqualified. We had to write an affidavit to say we are 2 people with the similar names that are only different at the end. So please double check the process. The following year, that's where they realized. And then we went together and got interviewed together. We got accepted. It was for education training. We got accepted together. It's because of that thing that got instilled in me until today, saying us. And we are over 40 now, but I still say us.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, Mimi.
Thank you very much again. Thanks once more for the opportunity. I would just like to remind the G20 partners that recently our president, on his State of the Nation address, he made note of the cannabis industry, that he's opening more doors for this industry that was marginalized and the hemp that was exploited because of somebody's idea wanted to deprive indigenous communities from benefiting from this cash crop. So as the entity, Mimi Trading and Project, I have said it before, I have been conducting research as a national knowledge holder with Professor Matabisa. We are working with about 14 researchers here at the institution, researching on cannabis only, specifically. It can be on glaucoma, it can be on prostate cancer, it can be diabetes, whatever the reason, they are researching on that. So now I'm saying from the background that I got at the engagement, like in Botswana, they want the government to speed up the process because since South Africa 2018, the Judge Zondo ruling to say cannabis is not a drug, must be rescheduled from the Drug Trafficking Act. And with our leading president, President Ramaphosa, who is the part of the G20, we got to achieve that milestone last year by May when he signed the bill to be an act because of our IKS intellect, because the act in South Africa, the Indigenous Knowledge System. So we are saying with other countries, use us. I have my business cards here. I'm still having my stall till the last day. Let's come and engage and use my services. Those who want my card, they can have it because we are there to build each other. My background, I didn't say it. Everybody has been saying Ubuntu. I'm also a Rastafarian from 13 years of age. So I saw the opportunity of just being a consumer of cannabis, but to be a producer. So I have 200-hectare farm in Edenbeck, whereby I'm going to be embarking with Professor. Professor just asked me and please say, Mimi, please, with your old hype of your farm, let me just deal with the G20. And then after that, I will have your time. So I'm giving you the hints to say that you're conducting a research in Kharep. It's a 200-hectare farm. So feel free, because I'm aware that the people, 90%, if it's not all, maybe in the house, they are engaged, they are actually directly involved in the Department of Education, like those who came to my stall. So let's organize Professor Matabisa to conduct these trainings for us to teach them so that we can also benefit in the global space and economy of cannabis in whatever possible way that we can have. Otherwise, Dr. Ank with the Science and Innovation, from this oil, it's just the CBD oil, but it's doing miracle things, you know. There's Anna facilitator, Patisa Ndozi, if I'm pronouncing you well, thank you very much. We want to develop this from the company doing the CBD oil, but to the biofuel, that we are talking about the biomass, what like that they were saying, sometimes this weight is like the big thing, but it's actually using the natural product to create a product, another product or something. So with this, or the study that we can conduct with the reusable, we can still do the biofuel that we can actually do in your own countries, whereby we can do trials on hemp to revitalize the soil. You know, the roots of hemp or cannabis, it feeds the soil with the nutrition. So if there was a land or mine dump or whatever that polluted and damaged the soil, by just doing the trial and research of planting the cannabis on your spaces or the hemp on your areas, it revitalizes the soil. So we are still reaching the mandate of reducing the carbon and global warming and preserving our environment. So there's many uses and benefit that we can have with this multi-million industry. So in that short few words, I will just say, please let's engage more. Let's create our own industries and let's give cannabis its fair space in terms of changing the mindset with those other countries, because maybe that is where our money lies. However, I'm seeking for off-take agreements for those who want to start businesses, who wants to buy from me and sell in their countries, because it is not yet legal. But with the research and certification that you got with the CSIR will guarantee the safety and quality and shelf life of these products. So we'll be happy to hear from you. Dr. Nokweku, I still acknowledge you, Head of the Department of Small Business and Development, and thank you very much for your unwavering support in our projects. And also as the Rastafari community, MEC Sifuba, we are hosting the elders from Jamaica. They're arriving on Tuesday to teach us our indigenous instruments, that is the Nyabingi music, that as the Rastafari community, we are using it on our spiritual life. So they're gonna be as the social cohesion and nation building and cultural exchange program, whereby they will also be talking about this indigenous herb and many uses and benefits and economical benefits and skills transformation that we are bringing as indigenous people to our indigenous communities.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I was struggling to say thank you because there's always but. However, whenever I wanted to say thank you, you continue. So thank you for stopping. I will have to, with permission of the program director, maybe if they can loan me 5 minutes, so that I can take your questions that you direct to our knowledge holders here. They gave us very good presentations in the 2 questions that they posed, and then one thing that I've noticed in all those questions, they completed their questions without saying the word AI. So it shows that we've got the right indigenous holders here. So any question from the floor? There's one question, where the mic? There's a hand there behind the cameras with a white shirt. Any other question? Any other? Okay, let's take that one.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. Not so long ago, I learned about the difference between traditional medicine and traditional medicines. So I'm glad that today I have the panelists where we have traditional healers. So my question will come out of this. I'd like to draw from the concept of psychology where we have the eudaimonic and the heidonomic. The other one talks about doing good, and the other one talks about functioning well. So my question is this. You, as indigenous holders, you have traveled the world. Here locally, you have certain medicines that you know that they work good for various diseases. So what one common goal would you have? Remember, we are at an international stage today. It is not just South Africa or Africa. Almost all countries are here present today. So there are people who have maybe the authority to make changes. If you had one goal as indigenous holders to collaborate with other people from abroad, what will it be? And then how well can you work with Western medicine to create a better health system that help everyone, And then with the benefits that you get, I believe that in everything that you do good as a person, credit must always be given. With the benefits that you can get as indigenous holders, what contribution can you still make to improve the health well-being of people? Thank you.
Okay. Can we get maybe one response? It's about collaborations. It's about what good can we do when we are collaborating with scientists.
Hello?
Collaboration with international stakeholders. Let's say on my side, as Machava helps, that will come after the efficacy has been done on Aragaya Makum. But as a healer, I can say traditional medicines do work well with Western medicines. In a sense that when you give patients treatment, like on the sensitive issue like HIV and AIDS, you would like to know their status from the professional doctor. Were they tested? Yes, they were tested. So what I do is I don't like throw the bones and look into a disease such as HIV and AIDS. I want somebody who come from a medical doctor with a valid claim that the person, yes, has AIDS. And there's a clinic card or a card from the doctor. That's where now I can treat the patient. Without that, no. I cannot just like think that I can do it without the approval of doctors and health professionals.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think collaboration is built with a trust, first and foremost. And I think our country is trying gradually building that collaboration at home first with the Western doctors and, and traditional healers before we can even go global. The House of Traditional Indigenous Knowledge Holders is still actually polishing its house. Each one, remember the issue of each one teach one is very, very important. There's no way we can start a collaboration if you don't understand my practice. You don't understand my, the way of using my umuti and so forth. So we're trying our level best, in conjunction used by working collectively with the institution like Science and Technology and University of Pretoria. The terminology that is used, before even if we can talk about, economy, the terminology that we use about our medicine in terms of medicine. So we have already started to say, even if it's still a long road, but I think the collaboration between the scientists and indigenous knowledge will take us there, bro. I've got no doubt about that. But carefully so, it's also built by a trust between the researcher and indigenous knowledge. That is the most important and the foundation that is needed, because a researcher cannot actually research at the same time. It depends how do we define what is the researcher. What does the word research means? To other people, to us, it's stealing, because in most cases, some of the researchers are not actually open to indigenous knowledge holders. So it's very, very, very important that. But I'm trying to say we're getting there. We will reach the global state. We will reach the global destination. That is why I'm saying we're still gonna let, here we're having different countries, I'm glad. And I wish that during our exchange discussion, we can learn from them how did they speed up, you know, the working together. Here we are still trying to work under one roof, creating a clinic working under one roof. It's still, you know, some difficulties, but that will be based on, you know, working hand in glove, understand me, understand you. And that's it, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other one who wants to make an input?
Yeah, thank you so much. Obviously, Chief has taken words from my mouth. It also boils down to terminology, because I remember most of the times certain words in certain languages cannot be pronounced the way they are supposed to be, and they always come up with a term that's more easier for both parties to pronounce, because I'm talking out of experience, knowing my language with clicks, certain words were changed. So I would still say the originality must still be there, and the knowledge holder must be the one that has to decide on the naming and how it should be pronounced. And then you can then work on from there, because if the name is changed or the pronunciation is changed, then it's kind of like lost in translation. Then it does not have that essence that it's supposed to. So it's just trust and collaboration in understanding the originality of where that medicine comes from.
Thank you very much. Can we give them a round of applause? Okay.
And to add on what my sister was saying, you know, it is better for us as healers to export finished product. So that's this knowledge that we have should hire many people locally to create jobs. Since you know yourself that unemployment in our youth is so high. So maybe if I export my raw material to collaborate with people internationally, you know, they will take that job from my local community. So for now, on my side, I see the better way is to maybe export a finished product. Thank you.
Can I have a quick question?
Okay. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I even requested an extra 5 minutes and then I used 10. I don't want to fight with the program director, but we can have one-on-one. I can refer you to them. I know both of them. We can have one-on-one conversations.
Okay.
On that note, in emphasizing what they were saying here in their closing statement on issue of terminologies, I also want to remind them and yourselves that the term traditional healer is no longer in use, because we've got a legislation which is called the Traditional Health Practitioners Act. The traditional health practice has been professionalized. So they are traditional health practitioners. And the issue, the other term that they were emphasizing was trust between the researcher and the knowledge holder. I think that will also be addressed, because we are also dealing with legislations that regulates the sector, the profession. So the Interim Traditional Health Practitioners Council has been established, and then it will also deal with all these issues related to research ethics, especially on the sector, traditional medicine. On that note, let me say thank you, and thank you to our knowledge holders. Thank you, President.
awesome discussion. Thank you very much again to the knowledge holders. And just to note that in South Africa, it's between 50 and 60% of the population, their first call in a medical challenge is to go to a traditional health practitioner. So this is still very common in South Africa, and instead of trying to suppress it, we are trying to encourage it and develop it and mainstream it. As Bruce from the Department of Health indicated, there are processes underway. And one other point to make is that we are going to be discussing the South African model of valorizing traditional knowledge in the G-20 initiative on bioeconomy, either tomorrow or the next day, I can't remember. So there will be some further discussion. As youth will be discussed in the Research and Innovation Working Group, Indigenous Knowledge Valorization will be discussed in the GIB. The last session for today, and we are on track, is looking at dialogue with bioeconomy researchers, and that will be moderated by Dr. Ank Chabalala, my colleague from the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. Over to you and your panelists.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much, Program Director. And again, I would like to greet you all, our dear friends from across the world. And of course, I noticed that the leadership of the province have excused themselves as well. But we are still in the capable hands of some of the members of the province and the university. Ben, I'm not sure how long do we have? Just 1 hour. Okay, wonderful. We have a session where we'll engage some of the scientists here in South Africa that have been working with indigenous knowledge holders, but also they are trainers, so they train these students within which the interface of indigenous knowledge systems and other knowledge fields happen. Maybe without any further ado, I would like to introduce myself briefly. As Ben said, I work with Ben Durham at the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. I direct a unit called Indigenous Knowledge-Based Technology Innovation, where we are responsible for some of the conversations that the youth that are being trained in our universities shared with you, but also we work with some of the elders that were here. But what we'll do now is that we'll invite some of the panelists. We'll start with my dear brother, Ntate Petulo, from the Medical Research Council. Please come through. And I guess it's also a hand. I'll also would like to introduce a young scientist that just completed her PhD, but she's also assisting at the lab that some of you visited. And we're doing this knowing very well that she's a young mother. So we're also congratulating her as a young mother. Innocentia. She begged me that I shouldn't ask her difficult questions. Now, I worked in antenatal care, so the mothers in the house, you'll understand what she was referring to. There is also a colleague that we work with from the University of Pretoria, Professor Namrita Lal. Namrita, please come through. because of transportation problems, we couldn't have one of our colleagues, but the gentleman that has made all this possible, he is very exhausted, but I insisted that he should come and just warm the seat. If he can't say anything because he's exhausted, we will forgive him. But I'd like to request Professor Matshabisa to also come and join us. Ntate Matshabisa. I know traditionally it's a goat because I forced him to come here, so I have to pay the fine with a goat, and that goat must have white colors on the side, on the right side. Thank you so much. So my dear colleagues, you have been listening attentively to what the youth have been saying and to what the indigenous knowledge holders were saying. But you also heard from our colleague, Mr. Dan Dutoy, in terms of some of the visions that South Africa has on indigenous knowledge, but within the science sector in general, including not only for South Africa, but also for the African continent as a whole within the global community. Maybe to start you off, we're having this conversation today predicated upon maybe not only in our country, but upon systems of innovation which are seen as exclusive and elitist. And if we were to talk about South Africa back in the day, we'll say the system was also racist. And this is the struggle that maybe most of the indigenous knowledge holders and communities struggled. Like in our country, we still had a law called Witchcraft Act. I trust that Mr. Mbezi has managed to repeal it so that the work that you are going to talk about is legal in its own home country. The knowledge holders, they begged for the science of Ubuntu, and I'll say the Ubuntu of science as well. So given the time that we're in, I'll ask only one question and then open it up to the audience. The question is, in a world where the knowledge holders still feel like innovation systems are exclusive and elitist, how do you, as scientists, envision a national system or even a global system of innovation wherein knowledge holders or indigenous knowledge itself will be mainstreamed and interfaced with fair and equitable benefit sharing in mind? But this time around, this not coming from the knowledge holders, but coming from you as scientists. I will then start with you, because we just interfaced, successfully interfaced indigenous knowledge in you. Please go. Maybe you may also just introduce yourselves briefly, where you're coming from, what you do, and then respond to the question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ang. Good afternoon, colleagues and everyone in the panel, in the room. My name is Innocentia Mawatu. I essentially started with the IKS program at the University of the Free State when it was just before it was in abeyance in 2015. So I'm actually the student that they started with from the ground root when they joined the university. And then we moved swiftly up until I recently completed my PhD, as Dr. Chabalala has said. So to touch briefly on the topic that you gave us, I would like to say that we need to move more towards a knowledge-based economy, despite the fact that we have many plants, we have a rich South African diversity. In doing so, this allows us to add more scientific value onto the plants that we have. By adding more scientific value onto the plants that we have would help us in generating innovation, driving more patents, developing products and resources. And in doing that, it allows us not only to focus on the many plants that we have and we are proud of, but rather the value that one can get from the knowledge attained from each of these plants. And this can also be achieved through the development of products and services. But then again, in doing that, we need to look into the prospects of developing these products and services in a fair and equal manner. So what then we are saying is that we do have the science to internationalize our IKS-based economy as a form of driving through our bioeconomy. Secondly, what we can actually do is move towards a more subsistence thinking that allows for inclusive collaboration between our IKS holders as well as the international community. In doing that, it actually brings us a step forward into more or less fostering or rather thinking about the prospects of developing or establishing our own pharmaceutical company based on IKS knowledge and IKS resources, because as it stands, we actually have a greater competitive advantage against the rest of the world, because we do have the science, we do have the knowledge, we do have the resources, and then we do have the capacity as it stems from our IKS holders, our researchers, and the industry.
Thank you. Maybe before we move on to Ntate Petulo, how do you see us or yourself as a researcher interfacing and really putting the knowledge holders first? What should be the modalities that we need to employ as scientists to do that?
Is it on? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. As scientists, to do that, I think we, in as much as we're prioritizing inclusive collaboration and encouraging partnership across the entire value chain, we also need to encourage and drive our thinking more towards industrializing and internationalizing the science. So in doing so, then this allows us to generate patents, move away from biopiracy, deviate from exploitation, which is, I heard that, some of the concerns that the IKS holders have actually been drafting on the stage. So that's, yeah, I believe that's what we can more foster.
Thank you. Dr. Petulo, you may take it from there as well.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to the organizers for the invitation and the opportunity to sit before you today. I am Petula Mahasha. I represent the South African Medical Research Council, as I had within the MRC, the IKS and African Traditional Medicine Strategic Projects. Responding to the questions, I think I will start with the last one which you have asked her. It is an easy process if people are fair. And how do we make our traditional knowledge holders feel at ease and trust the scientists that are going to conduct the science? How we go about it, I'll give you an example at the MRC. The point of departure, even before I get to know what product are they claiming effectiveness against whichever disease, is that we need to have an NDA, which gives them the comfort and the protection that there isn't anything that I will do which will compromise their medication and claim it's mine, because already it is written somewhere that is theirs. And if we can begin there, giving them security and sort of an ease of engaging with us to say, I am the scientist, I'm going to do the science. The knowledge that you're bringing to me, it's yours. And that will always be respected along the way. By doing that to date, I've seen that it makes them be at ease. There are a lot of knowledge holders out there, to date are still afraid of coming out because of the history of how they lost. Some got to lose the knowledge that they had relative to the engagements that they have had before. But I think this has worked well to date because we have projects that are running, and the process has been that we make them aware that we are the scientists who are doing the science. We need to basically to ascertain that which they are claiming with science to make sure that their product is effective as they say it is, or they claim it is, and then confirm the safety of those products. And with that engagement, things have been very easy to do along the process. But I think we need to create an environment that is fair, where the partnership is clear as well. As we're engaging about the business that we do, even before we start doing the science, the benefit sharing needs to be clear on how at the end, as we embark into that exercise, how are things at the end going to be divided so that everybody else benefits. And I think having listened to the youth and even listened to our knowledge holders, you could see the system that May from Limpopo have with the community. It's a clear system that makes the community be at ease, feel involved, feel that they own that which comes from their land. And if you can have that kind of situation across the board, locally, continentally, globally, I think things will be clear and easy for us to engage with our knowledge holders in a way that they know that they are valued, their knowledge is valued, is respected. Ours is to come in as with the science as partners to apply our expertise in helping them to eventually, depending on what the science tells us, rolling their products out internationally in a way that the global community will accept it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Namrita, you had Me Innocentia and Tate Petulo. They are talking about the how. I would like you to talk on the same question, but maybe give us some of the examples. How are you doing it in reality? Are you doing all these things that they are saying as part of this consortia that we have, or you have different ways of doing the beneficiation, the collaboration with the knowledge holders?
Good evening, everyone. Great. Very privileged to be part of this G-20 on bioeconomy. Thanks to the organizer for inviting me. As you heard, that South Africa's biodiversity is very impressive. After Indonesia and Brazil, this is the third largest biodiverse country in the world. And it has also got one of the 6 biodiversity hotspots in the world. So, and the traditional healing has been going on in this country for centuries, but not many products have reached the market. So that's what we are involved with. We are trying to scientifically validate the medicinal properties of plants for pharmaceuticals and cosmetics. Now with the knowledge holders and scientists, how are we working together? As my colleague mentioned, that one cannot just ask for the information. So we also try to sign prior informed consent, non-disclosure agreement, and so on. And my collaborator, Dr. Mabena, mentioned about our collaboration with the University of Pretoria. So basically, we try to work together. And how I started myself with taking my undergraduate students, postgraduate students to his working place, to Dr. Mabena. He opened his doors, and we could show our students how the traditional healing practice is going on and how do they treat the patients. Same thing, vice versa, Dr. Mabena was invited and many other knowledge holders also in our laboratory to see, some of them have never seen how the cancer cell lines look like under the microscope. For example, many workshops we do from time to time. And on that point, I would like to say that we also have a certificate course which we run in the university. So that course basically at a very, not very at a very high level, that gives some knowledge to the traditional health practitioners and people working in the industry about the plant compounds and so on. I mean, we use different types of solvents, and those solvents extract different compounds. So those things are exposed to the knowledge holders in that case. So in that way, they also get an answer when, when we get some samples and they say, why you scientists, you are taking many years to give us an answer. So then we have to tell them that this is the problem we face, we have contamination and things like that. And then eventually, after 20 years of research, thanks a lot to our government. Without them, we cannot do anything. After 20 years of research, yes, we can see lots of success, and I'm very happy to say that we are getting many pharmaceutical cosmetics from the beautiful plants we have here. And again, how do we help the knowledge holders of the country? So then it is like, SMMEs, there are startups by the company, by youngsters, by community people. And now with a lot of science and all the data, when everything is backed up with data, then the big companies are coming forward. And in that way, even the SMMEs, they are privileged to sell these products. So for example, for one sample, one can have easily 10 different companies. They can go into white labeling, and that's how they can generate income for themselves. They can grow plants and sell to the manufacturers and so on. So that's how we get into, how they can generate income, and which can lead to the, the bioeconomy of the nation as a whole. So in conclusion, I would say that us as scientists and knowledge holders, we have to work hand in hand. We should complement one another, not compete with one another. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tate Mutlalipula, I would like you to touch maybe briefly on the same question, but you are our convener, so I want to give you the difficult question, which is to say to our visitors, what is it that the G20, especially G20 bioeconomy aspect of our work, can prioritize as part of this mainstreaming and interfacing of indigenous knowledge systems within the science sector?
Thank you so much, Ndati Chabalala, for hijacking me. I want to start off, my background is in pharmacology, so I'm a professor of pharmacology. I teach about medicines and what medicines do to people and what people do to medicines. So that's my focus. Excuse me. So I really want to start off to answer this question by deviating and saying, let us not talk about benefit sharing, but I want us to think about how we coexist, how we develop things together, instead of others being beneficiaries, but others also being the owners of that. That's where I want us to start off. Because if we perpetuate to say others are going to be beneficiating, that means we continue to say there will be those others that are making the wealth and continue to make the wealth while we think of others to beneficiate. The second thing that I want to put forward is two African sayings. One, if you want to go far, you go alone. No, if you want to go fast, you go alone.
if you want to go far, you go with others. Okay? So we can't do things alone. We have to co-create things. We have to go into partnerships. The second African thing that I want to say is, if you want to break a twig, it is easy to break one twig, but if you were to collect a number of twigs and put them together, you'll have difficulty in breaking that bundle. So sitting here with the G20, now I'm saying we are that bundle, that unbreakable bundle that then needs to go far. Okay? So together we want to go far in the development of our indigenous medicinal plants, our fauna and flora, our indigenous knowledge systems. But when you are in partnership, you always remember that we come into partnerships because each one of us brings something into that partnership. So we're saying Africa and South Africa, we have the indigenous knowledge systems, we have the plants, and this is something that we want to bring to the world. Not to beneficiate or not to be beneficiaries, but to be partners in the world of development and co-creation. That's what we are looking for. We want to work with you. We want to have projects with you that are meaningful projects of partnerships, where we can then work together to develop jointly, equally, and meaningfully. We have the science. We can then move on and say, with the science that South Africa and Africa has, how then do we work with you to develop what the world wants? I was at the World Health Summit in Berlin, and we're talking about antimicrobial resistance. It is not a problem of Africa. It is a global problem. And I'm calling to the G20 and saying, how then together do we fight that? And the call is, can we develop new antimicrobial agents? And those new antimicrobial agents probably would be based on our natural resources. We are here to save the world. And I think this is a forum that when we live here, we can live as friends as we are, but living, thinking to say, how then do we create a scientific partnership that can move all of us and make those indigenous knowledge holders to find incentives to be part of, I think, this movement of finding solutions to the world. We want the indigenous knowledge holders to be partners, but not to be beneficiaries. We want them to work with us, with their knowledge, and we give that knowledge to the world. In return, we want to see then the development, based on that knowledge. And that development is not just developing South Africa or Africa, but it's developing the global world. Probably if animals would speak, they would have said they are tired of the antimicrobials. They need something different. So we are here to say, how then do we sit with you as the scientists, as the policymakers, to move the world forward and say, we can in fact do something good. We can do what we refer to, because I'm part of the World Health, I'm part of the World Intellectual Property, to begin to say, one health, one world, and one globe. And all that encompasses life on this world, including us and our animals. So we need to do good, and we can then produce things that are suitable for us, because whatever we do to the animals, it ends in us. So that's really what I would want us to say, because to give the indigenous knowledge holders that incentive to say we can do something jointly with them, but I should sit here proudly say Africa can offer something to the world. And that something to the world is the knowledge, it is the biodiversity, but we want to do it collectively with yourselves as co-creators of this development. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ntate. I do understand that your argument is that we cannot perpetuate modern day slavery, whereby one people support the raw materials, but they must be the owners of the means of production. So I would like to then hand over an opportunity to you as the listeners, as the audience, as our visitors, to then ask whatever question you have to our brilliant minds here. And I will do something unprecedented and also ask my colleague Ben Durham, because he's the one that is responsible for bioeconomy in the country, to also have something to say, to ask a question to some of the people that you might not have had maybe in a little while. But this fora is open for anyone. Whatever question you have, from the knowledge holders to the youth, they can handle it, because interfacing is happening here. Thank you so much. We may have the hands, if there are any. I see Rachel, and I see Ben. Any more hands at the back? Okay, let's start with Rachel.
So my question to the researchers, to the bioeconomy researchers is, when will we see roaring industries with enterprises that are thriving? We're beginning to see some, if I had the knowledge holders correctly. But what would it take to really accelerate creation of enterprises and the thriving bioeconomy from indigenous knowledge, from where you sit as researchers? What is missing, or what could be the critical ingredient that really just provides that firepower?
Thank you. Maybe we can take this round, and then we'll go to Ben.
Thank you for the question. Actually, I'm happy to be sitting here today, because last week, Monday, an opinion piece was published in the Mercury and the Cape Times, more so talking about indigenous knowledge systems. And it's there published on the website of the DSTI and my organization, the South African Medical Research Council. But the point that I wanted to make was, we have this biodiversity. With all due respect, I think we must not kid ourselves. I can try to be controversial and say IKS works. Why am I saying that? The two countries and the region in Africa, which have almost 1.5 billion people, which is India and China and Africa as a whole. As I checked this morning, the estimates are such that Africa has got 1.5 billion plus people. The majority of people have that license of use in IKS. On the continent, we know the situation of our health systems. Not many people, even in South Africa, their first contact of seeking medical help, it's not a Western hospital. They go to traditional healers. Then the obvious question is, if really we are saying IKS does not work, why do the populations of these countries continue to increase? The example is the COVID pandemic. Yes, we don't have scientific evidence as to why the people of the continent, as it was expected, that if we were not to get the vaccines in time, many will die. Why didn't they die? Because they used that which they knew and they always relied on, which is traditional medicines. I think we need to just get to a point where Africa, with the help of the world, gets to a point where using the science in this case, because we're not only doing it for Africans, we're doing it for the global community. to validate the claims. And when we have done that, share with the world that which we would have discovered. But that has to be done in Africa, so that the economies of the continent and her people can benefit fully out of that, in a way that manufacturing companies will be created. Our government is doing a lot. And one is just excited to be sitting here and the discussion being the one that we are having. And I think my opinion piece was just basically at the end of it. That's why I was kind of taken aback when the editors had edited my take-home message in my piece. But I'm happy that on the DSI website, on our SAMRC website, the whole article was published as I had written it, where I was saying to the government, not only of South Africa, but of the continent and of the world, that we can only see the value of IKS if we can be fully supported with the infrastructure that we need, the funding that is required to validate the research, so that before we let go of it, which will be a big mistake, but at least we would have done everything. And I think even before, within 5 years, so much will be discovered. That I am in my heart confident of, because our people have been using traditional medicine forever. And the population of South Africa, I'm not hearing anybody telling me it's getting to 39 million. We are at 60. But the majority of our people are using IKS. So something is good with it. And we just need to realize that and provide that support which is required, working with our knowledge holders, the scientists together as a team, to then be able to prove that we are sitting on gold. And I went on to mention that the Middle East, the UAE, discovered oil as a natural resource. 20 years ago, nobody wanted to be frequenting Dubai or the UAE as a region. But today, as we sit here, everybody wants to go there, because they used the natural resource that they had to make their countries look the way they look today. And we can do the same as a continent. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Petula. Anyone else want to take this? And the question still stands. How far? Are we close? Or is it a mirage that will take thousands of years to reach?
Thank you so much for the question. I see three challenges that are sort of hindering the speedy progress to, I think, the industrialization of our traditional or indigenous knowledge systems. One, I think, not just in South Africa, but I think the rest of Africa, we all tolerate traditional medicine. We have not institutionalized traditional medicine. The second aspect is, because we have not institutionalized traditional medicines, because we have not institutionalized traditional medicines, if I were to talk about medicines, our medicines regulatory authorities seem also not to be, I think, inclined that health has changed in the many, many years that they have been established. Health is no longer what it was many years ago. I was in Berlin, I think, and I visited Havelhofer, hospital. Big hospital, it's as big as your Baragwanath hospital. But what I saw was, I went to the oncology ward, and they then practice holistic health. So there was traditional medicines, there were traditional practices, there were music, there were dancing, because health is not just about giving medicines and chemicals. And as long as our medicines regulatory authorities begin to look at health as being resolved by chemicals and molecules, we will not move. The second, or the third one, probably not the last one, but the third one, there is no equity in research funding for traditional medicines. We need to do that. We normally say funding for traditional medicines should not be an orphan within departments. There should be, I think, equitable funding if you'd want to see products onto the market. So those are, I think, key three things. The aspect of traditional health practitioners is they are very reluctant to participate in these initiatives unless we show them the incentives for them to participate. If we cannot show them the incentives to participate, we'll always say they are secretive, they do not want to tell us what they are doing. It's because they don't see the incentives to participate. So those are the key things that African governments maybe need to consider if they would want to see industrialization and they would want to see pharmaceutical companies developed, I think, in this continent based on our indigenous knowledge systems. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Any of you wanna, Namrita, you good?
Just one point, the colleagues have did mention most of the aspects. Another thing is market, to penetrate the market. Everyone is used to what is available in the market. So that's another challenge. If it comes to pharmaceutical, if it is ingested, lot of resources, lot of fund needed, and it takes time. Cosmetics, I'm working on both areas. I'll tell you from my experience. Topical application, comparatively less time, but it still needs a lot of data. So marketing, penetrate the market, that's another challenge we face. But as my colleague said, within 5 years, we hope to see, not just in South Africa, finished product, but also across the world. Thanks.
Innocentia, anything from yourself?
I would really say that when it comes to IKS holders, their knowledge and industrializing their products, we should actually take it a step further into developing frameworks that not only benefit the other side, but benefit both of us. So it shouldn't be a requited type of beneficiation. And in doing so, we're actually not only protecting their IP, but they also rest assured knowing that when their products reach the market, because they bring them to us to assess them and do the science, they are safe for everyone to ingest, to use. But as well, they're right, there is no biopiracy that is involved in the development of the products and industrializing them. So that's what we need to ascertain them.
Thank you. I must say that some of the things that my colleagues are mentioning in terms of strides to reaching the destination that you're asking, Rachel, is that the department actually approved that we build an institute of bioinnovation with African medicines as the main department in that. And actually, our colleague, Mr. Dan Dutoy, was the chair of that meeting where this decision was taken. So that is happening. And also with my colleague here, not far from here, we'll be building the first government-sponsored manufacturing industry high-end, which is linked to the laboratory that you just saw this morning, and some of you will see in an hour or so. So we're making strides, though slow, we'll get there. Ben, any question and comment? And then I've noticed Mimi, and then I think it will be the last question. so that we then reach our destination in terms of time. Please go ahead, Ben.
Great, thank you. Prof. Matsabisa, you stole my thunder. I was going to ask you the question of how do we reconcile the active pharmaceutical approach of Western medicine with the mixture, the concoction, of traditional medicines. And you've answered that, I'm afraid, and I love the answer. It's about recognizing that health is more than about just a single chemical. There's many more elements to health beyond that. I think the point, though, that I just want to emphasize is that the bioeconomy initiative of the G20, what we are recognizing is that the bioeconomy is a potential solution to contributing solution to the climate change and biodiversity loss crises, and therefore it becomes more and more critical. What is still needed is for the world to start working together more effectively. And I think what IKS has been developing, at least in South Africa, but it's starting to spread elsewhere as well, is this ability for different cultures, the science culture and the indigenous, the traditional healers culture, can be radically different, and yet we have demonstrated the ability to move above that and beyond that. So it's a comment. I'm not asking a question. It's really about working together for the good of the world. This applies to indigenous knowledge, but it's far more than just that. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Ben. That indeed, that our diversity should be something that we celebrate. Can I take just one question very briefly, Mimi, at the back?
Thank you very much. And thanks again. Yes, Prof. I hope that HOD of Agriculture is still in the house and the traded industry, because I wanted to ask you, Professor Matsabisa, in terms of like commercial research, how soon can we start with the commercial research of cannabis with the countries outside and also within the country? Because we know that we work with what we have. With your knowledge and the experience that you have, I think you can enlighten our key two departments within our province so that we can tap into that market as a IKS communities. Thank you.
No, I don't have answers to everything. But medicine development and medicine commercialization are reliant on two key things. It's how safe your medicine is, and secondly, it is the quality that that medicine is packaged in. Those are the key things. And I'll stand a bit controversial when I would say the efficacy comes later on, okay? So you always, and I'm sure each and every country always wants to ensure that the products that get into their countries are safe. That's the first thing. Now, if you then want to export into other countries, you then be, for instance, guided by their rules, to say, this is what we are asking for. So we can do the best we can in terms of looking at cannabis. I mean, we have just been developing, a hydrogel, for slow release pain, chronic pain on cannabis, and we have just developed, some products for inflammation. That may suit the South African, I think, situation, but if I want to export it somewhere else, I then need to comply, I think, with the regulatory rules of that particular country. So we continue, I think, looking at the market, because we in South Africa also are the market. And I think what we have also been saying in terms of cannabis, you know, it is not just to say the market is outside the continent or outside South Africa. We need to create the market here at home as well. Because if you do not create the market here at home, how are you going to convince someone outside to buy your product when your own country is not selling it? Okay? So those are, I think, some of the things that we really need to look at and say, yes, let us continue to do relevant, appropriate, and needs-driven research. And that research should be applied in the sense that, you know, there's no money. You know, governments have no money. So the little that they can give you, we need to move and say, at least we can have a prototype, we can have a product that we say we can put into the market. So that's, I think, you know, the best answer, you know, Mimi, that I can give you. We will be guided by what other countries want. So don't focus yourself so much on export, but focus yourself about creating the market here in South Africa.
Thank you so much. Let me then take this opportunity to thank you all for really listening attentively to our youth, to our knowledge holders, and to our esteemed guests as the scientists here, but also to thank you all for making time to come and share your stories in terms of what it is that we're doing in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll hand over back to Ben. So thank you so much.
Great, folks. That brings us nearly to the close of the session. We've had 3 fantastic panel discussions. I hope you will agree, and I hope you will join me in thanking them again with another round of applause. I want to recognize Prof. Matsabisa, the University of Free State, and Ankh Chabalala as the 3 kind of institutions that have helped in organizing this. I think it is very relevant to both the Research and Innovation Working Group and to the G-20 initiative on bioeconomy, and I hope there will be certain lessons that we can take forward into those discussions. The final stage then is set for our introduction of the concluding remarks. Professor Joyce Tsoka Gwegweni, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, who is the Acting Dean for Research at the Faculty of Health Sciences here at the University of Free State, will provide some closing remarks on this session. Before she comes up, I just want to point out to everyone that there will be some live entertainment being put on for all those guests before the start of the official cocktail event. And I understand it could be here or it could be at the Centenary building. So that is still to be resolved exactly, but there will be entertainment for folks before we go to the cocktail event, which is at 7 o'clock this evening. There are buses, I understand they will be in the parking lot or hopefully quite visible, which will take you to the Centenary building in due course. And I think that's all the announcements that I need to make for today. And so I will then hand over to Prof. Joyce for the concluding remarks.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Good evening, colleagues. I just want once more greet our seniors. I know most of the seniors, the MEC have left, but I just want to greet the ones that are still here. I greet our national colleagues that are here as well. I greet the university colleagues and our guests from international countries, and everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just say, all protocol observed. I know you've been sitting and listening all day, but I can tell you that it was worth every minute of it. There was a lot that was said here, and maybe just few points from my side, what I heard being said today is that we require, we have common problems, and these problems are not in South Africa, they are not in Africa, they are global. And we require each other to solve them. We require collaboration. And we need to find integrated solutions. That's what has been said here this afternoon. And also, the first group did mention I and the integration within IKS. And I think these are some of the solutions of how we can go about growing this, reaching the sustainability that we're talking about. And also, the second group came also, they did highlight a few challenges of how the hurdles for them, especially to grow, to ensure sustainability, especially reaching the international world. And I think these have been talked about. And they did mention a few things of how at local level they can start in terms of integrating the communities, in terms of bringing everybody together. And also there was a mention of I don't know, I don't want to use the word decolonization of the curriculum, but there was a mention of the curriculum, that the curriculum, I think, as it stands currently, it doesn't fully integrate IKS, as well as the research is there in terms of IKS, but the curriculum, the teaching, I think we need to also, we need to integrate the curriculum. I think the word that was mentioned is integrate. I don't want to say revise, but it was integrate within it formally, because I can hear what was said is that it's there, but we take students to see traditional health practitioners and where they work, but that is not a formal, platform, a formal way. And it was also mentioned that the students need to there was a mention of something like learnership within the traditional health system, the IKS. So there were opportunities that were identified in terms of at local level, how can we broaden this IKS? And also I just want to mention that there was mention of the advantage of the big data that were in that era of big data, of how we can really use it, but as well as make sure that we protect the IKS. I also want to mention that there was a mention of how we can grow the science and innovation and to make sure that it is inclusive. And there were requests that the G-20 can facilitate, especially in countries that are not yet open, like they don't have policies or laws for IKS people to reach. So there was that request. So I'm just trying to capture the points here. And also our IKS holders, they mentioned that they need local recognition and protection and ways. The researchers came up with some of the ways. They also came up with some of the ways of how that can be done. And also there was a mention of the word Ubuntu. I think that applies mainly in the local communities, how that can be ensured, and where it started, and how it can continue to be carried out to ensure sustainability. And also that all the stakeholders should come together when we are moving forward in the future. I think there was also suggestions on how, because the other challenge is the challenge of trust between researchers, between the industry, and between the IKS holders. There were suggestions of how we can build the trust, and those suggestions were noted, and methods of how that can be done, I think, also came from the researchers mentioning that there are agreements of how to protect IP rights. I think from my side as well, I heard the words that we need to encourage exchange of knowledge between traditional and Western type of medicine. And the word partnership also came a lot to mention that we can do things as partners, not necessarily everyone go there and everyone, or we look for profit, but partnership, collaboration. Those words were mentioned a lot. Partnership between scientists and knowledge holders, partnership between other sectors, not just the health sector and all other sectors. And also as partners, I heard that we need each other. I think that one group cannot do it on their own, but we need each other to continue to move forward with, if we are to ensure sustainability in bioeconomy, we need each other. I like the example as well that was shared by one of the IKS holders who said he cannot just start treating people by hearing that they have HIV, but he needs the doctor to diagnose fully the patient. I think that was one example that really just showed how we need each other. And also there was a mention that we need to develop jointly, not just in South Africa, in Africa and with the continent, and that we mustn't afraid to be co-creators, to develop together with the outside world, with everybody globally. So I like the example that Prof. Matsabisa used of that we need each other, and if we need to go far, I think that far is the sustainability we're talking about. So that to go far, and we need to do it together. We need to go together. So we cannot go alone. We can go alone and be fast, but we'll not reach where we want to go. I just want to end off by saying there are lots of opportunities. Of course, we highlighted some challenges, but there are lots of opportunities for everyone. And what makes me excited as Vice Dean for Research is that those opportunities can be explored and they need to be evidence-based. So that is where the science come in and the innovation. So those opportunities for everyone can be explored through the science, through the researchers as well. So, but everyone must come on board. Yeah, I just want to end off that I didn't want to repeat what was said. I just want to end off by saying that thank you for being here and for being our visitors. And we thank G20 really for choosing us as the host. And also the stakeholders, all the stakeholders and our government and provincial partners. I know some of them have left already, but I just want to say, continue to collaborate, continue to engage, continue to network, and enjoy our facilities. They are beautiful. And enjoy the music that is waiting for you out there. I know your mind is tired, but the music will refresh you. And you heard Prof. Matsabisa saying, health is no longer the same. It has evolved, and we no longer just dish out tablets and medicine, but we need music as well. I hope the music will be healing. I can see some hands there at the back, they're agreeing with me. Yes, so the music is out there to just, revive you or re-energize you and get you ready for the cocktail. And I just want to say, let's continue the dialogue. Let's continue networking and discussions in the next day and tomorrow. And amidst everything, let's continue to form those collaborations while we are still here and with whichever government department. All the best and enjoy the cocktail.
Excuse me, before you go to the cocktail, there's one last tour for the afternoon. So those that are going to the tour, please meet Professor Matsabisa in the foyer. And the rest, please go into the buses outside and enjoy the cocktail. Thank you very much.
Musulu sekele, yo godona he. Hakili maya malo musula katoyole, musulu toyole, oh godona ha. Yaniki wasa waditi yele, afisa buyuma, asabu kanyi. Yaneka ke waditi bani olola mosolefe inale ina kusa goduna kandi wasofa mele ofisa buyuma asabu kanyi yaneka ke fama bani olola mosolefe inale ina kusa godona ina nyomabo solu bara obela ala oro yaka solu furuke boyala malike bola senege rodo ikwani daga sigile malike bole kulido surafana sikile uraja kekele sigido nasongo bongodo logo nyini ke wabanya no kafere bongodo katili do muro to focho mama sira denna dinara katili do muro to focho mama sira denna dinara mamiri musoluma ameboni musolagaro mamiri musoluma anasira mamiri musoluma ameboni musolagaro mamiri musoluma anasira mabasira morikoro sibilipe mo pale ila diala mo nale kito diniyaro ki boy body sunaro kilara maya korosi kilara maya idiana kori e mo bayala o gadonalu Mabasira Morikoro Sibili Bae Mobile Ila Diala Monale Kito Diniero Kiboy Buni Sunero Ilara Maya Korosi Ilara Maya Idiana Kori Emo Bayala Oh Gadonalu Anadiko Mabade Godona Nadiko Yanika ke boditi bali sabuye mosoledi tunyalaro tunya mosole ko be sabuye Yanika ke fama badi bora mosolero tunyalaro tunya mosole ko be sabuye Anariko baba de godona nariko mama sira de natinara mangule kioro de ne baba de nariko mama sira de natinara mangule kioro de ne mola de nariko mama sira de natinara musulu musulu musulu